independent in thought and punk rock in life. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Hey, how you doing? My name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show. You, of course, can jump in at 844-DIG-CHAD, 844-DIG-CHAD. You can also go online, thechadshow.com. And when you do that, right there on the page, a little bit down on the right-hand side, all of the links to the social media so you can jump in and participate. Lots of ways to do it, and we're always glad when you do. 844-DIG-CHAD is the best way to let everybody know what you think, 844-DIG-CHAD. I got good news. I like to start with good news. Good news is 4.1% economic growth for the quarter. Now, I know there's some negatives in it. Okay, we'll get to the negatives in a second. But the first thing to say is 4.1% growth. Do you remember not so long ago when all of the Democrats and the media and the far lefties, but I repeat myself, said we got to get used to the new normal? The new normal in economics in America is maybe 1.5%, 1.75% growth. I mean, that's the new norm. We're not going to have 4% or 3% growth anymore. I mean, come on. Maybe you get up to 2% if you're lucky. Now, when Trump came out and said, I want 4% growth, oh, that's shit. Come on. You're not going to get 4%. That's just lying to the American people. And this is 4.1% for a quarter. Okay, it's not annual. It's for a quarter. And I remember during the Reagan boom years, there were quarters that were 8% growth, okay? So we're not at that level for sure, but we're talking about 3% annual growth by the end of this year for the whole year. 3% annual growth. And it could be in the, middle threes. And who knows, in a year or two, we could be at 4%. And we were told, no, you got to get used to the new normal. Just like we were told, hey, you can't drill your way out of this energy problem. We've got to quit drilling for oil. We got to quit drilling for natural gas. We've got to quit using coal. That's all the old stuff. It's not going to work anymore. We're almost out of it. We've got to move on. People were saying that on the far left in the 70s, but people were still saying it the last President Obama election. Well, guess what? We are now the number 2 producer of oil in the world, only slightly behind Russia. At least by the middle of next year, we're expected to be number 1. The number 1 producer of oil in the world. We're already the number 1 producer of natural gas in the world. And by the way, none of that thanks to President Obama. President Obama did everything he could to stop fracking. Now, he couldn't stop it on private lands. He couldn't stop it on state lands, but he did stop it on federal lands. Trump has gone the opposite direction. The only reason that the gas price isn't even more expensive right now. So you can't drill your way out. Really? We kind of are. You're never going to get above 2% growth again. It's just the new normal. Really? Because we kind of already are. There are actions that are being taken by this president that are being ignored by the mainstream media, the Democrats and the far left, but I repeat myself, because they don't want that out there. So they're focused on Playboys, Playboy bunnies, and tape recordings from Michael Cohen and what Trump said in Helsinki and what Trump tweeted, and they're missing the actual policies and the actions that have been taken under this president with tax cuts, with energy production, with regulations, with trade, with foreign powers that have actually made a difference in our lives. And for most people in a positive way. So this is good news. It shouldn't matter whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. It should matter that you want economic growth, because that helps everybody. And it really shows you how far we've gone. That somebody trying to talk this down. Well, the reason it was 4.1% was because we've got a lot of people that are worried about tariffs that Trump might put on. So there was a lot of forward buying. In other words, people bought more than they normally would. There were more exports than imports happening because people wanted to get these deals done before the tariffs were implemented. And there's some truth to that. I'm not denying that. I'm simply saying that's not the entire story. And now that Trump has been working with the EU to get these tariffs reduced, that trade should continue and help us even more. Look, we can compete with anybody if we have free and fair trade. And that gets me to that next point. I am a free trade guy. But the part that Trump talks about that so many conservatives have ignored is that free trade also has to be fair trade. See, if we say we're not going to put a tariff on your goods, but you put a tariff on ours, well, that's not fair. And that's what's been happening. We have been the world's piggy bank, and we have been the world's doormat when it comes to trade. All these other countries, even our allies in the EU that have been putting tariffs on some of our goods coming in and or subsidizing their goods so that we can't compete, that's not free and fair trade. Now, on our side, you'd have to say, look, we're subsidizing certain corporations. We're subsidizing certain industries. You know, we subsidize a lot of farm goods. We've got to get clear on that. So what I loved the other day is when President Trump said to the EU, we want to get to zero tariffs and we want to get to zero subsidies. And we're willing to work with you to get to that on both sides so that neither side is putting tariffs on each other and neither side is subsidizing goods to make an unfair advantage. And the EU said, all right, we're ready to work with you on that. And they cut a deal. That's pretty good. Now, the other part of this that gets really tricky is the way that President Trump has gotten these other nations to pay attention is he said, we're going to put tariffs on your stuff. Hey, China, we're going to put tariffs on your stuff. Maybe 50 billion, maybe 500 billion. Who knows? It all depends on what you do. And you got to quit stealing our intellectual property. Got to stop doing it. We're not going to have it. Or we're going to punish you with tariffs. And so that's dangerous, because if China is willing to say, "Oh yeah, well we're going to punish your goods with tariffs," and they're willing to hang in there longer than we are, then they could win, because here's the deal. China can say to their people, "Too bad. We're going to do what we're going to do. You're going to suffer for a while. It's going to hurt you, and it might hurt our economy for a while, but we're looking at the long game." See, China doesn't plan for a 2-year election cycle. China doesn't plan for a 4-year election cycle. China doesn't plan for an election cycle. They don't have to. China plans for 100 years out. So China can be saying, yeah, in the next 3, 4, maybe even 5 years, our economy won't be as good as it could have been. But we're going to win this trade war with America and we'll come out on top. Maybe that's their plan. But maybe not. Maybe they can't hang in there as long as we can. But if we get into that kind of a game, how much is it going to hurt you? How much is it going to hurt the farmer? How much is it going to hurt the auto manufacturer? How much is it going to hurt all manufacturing? I don't know. That's my fear, is to get into a trade war, to start a recession or a depression. And that's the balance. That's the fine walk, because President Trump is right that we've been taken advantage of. He's right that it's unfair trade. He's right to try to redo these deals. Are we able, as a nation, to take the short-term pain for the long-term gain, especially in a political situation where we've got a midterm election cycle coming up? What do you think? I'd love to know your thoughts on that. 844-DIG-CHAD, 844-DIG-CHAD gets you in. So President Trump is excited. You know, he's out there saying, as the trade deals come in one by one, we're going to do a lot higher than these numbers, 4.1%, and these are great numbers. As you know, the Democrats want to end. Oh, he talked about the taxes. Sorry. He said, as a result of his tax cuts, more than 6 million Americans are enjoying new bonuses, better jobs, far better paychecks. And the Democrats want to turn that back. He said, as you know, the Democrats want to end that and raise everybody's taxes. That is what they're running on, isn't it? Then the president talked about low unemployment rate among minorities and women. Said we've been ripped off by the world. Announced Wednesday that he'd secured concessions from the EU. Also said the trade deficit, very near to my heart because we've been ripped off by the world, has dropped off by more than $50 billion. That's all pretty good news, isn't it? And then he had to stick the knife in. Quote, during each of the 2 previous administrations, we averaged just over 1.8% GDP growth. By contrast, we are now on track to hit an average GDP annual growth of over 3%. And it could be substantially over 3%. And each point of growth, by the way, means approximately $3 trillion and 10 million jobs. That's pretty good stuff. So Trump's taking his little victory lap. And I think he has a right to. Oh, one other thing. We had an American C-17 touchdown in North Korea pick up the remains of American military men from the Korean War and come back to South Korea. That has not been done ever since the Korean War. And just a couple months ago, few short months ago, the left and the media and the Democrats, but I repeat myself, were all saying you had to watch out. Trump was about to get us into a nuclear war with North Korea. I mean, it's to the point where even a guest on CNN, one of their political analysts, one of their own political analysts, had to say, hey, guys, Trump's had a pretty good week. Listen to this. This is Ian Bremmer. He's on CNN, New Day, this morning. Listen to his quote. You really want the big picture? This has been a good week for Trump. We get out of CNN land for just a second. Whoa, let me stop right there. This guy is a political analyst for CNN, and he's basically saying to CNN, you guys are living in an anti-Trump bubble. If you can get out of your head for just a second, if you can get out of your bubble for a second, if you can get out of your tribe for a second, if you can get out of trying to slam the president every second, you might notice something. He's had a good week. Quote, we get out of CNN land for just a second and 4% growth in the United States. The Europeans back down on trade. He now looks like a winner on that front. The North Koreans, more progress with remains coming back. He's right. He's right. And then he even got into the Russian stuff. He said, yeah, that Helsinki stuff hurt him for a little bit. But now he's backtracked and he said, quote, okay, I'm not going to do the summit this year after all. I'm not going to recognize Crimea as a part of Russia. Nothing actually happened. What he means is nothing good for Russia. So really, if you look, again, the media and the left-wingers and the Democrats, but I repeat myself, have gotten all in a lather over what President Trump said at Helsinki. And I'll admit, I wasn't a big fan of everything he said there. But they've totally ignored his actions because his actions have been tougher than Obama's against Russia. We have tougher sanctions on now than we did under Obama. We are pumping more gas and oil, which hurts Russia, now than we did under Obama. Trump kicked out some of the ambassadors from Russia. He went after Germany's pipeline deal with Russia. That hurts Russia. In fact, the Trump administration is being tougher on not recognizing Russia's annexation of Crimea than the Obama administration was. Actions, not words. If you look at that, then it's pretty obvious what's going on. But that's not enough to stop April Ryan on CNN from saying Trump is acting like a dictator. Oh, I got that audio for you. You got to hear in just a second. Love your thoughts on it as well. 844-DIG-CHAD, 844-DIG-CHAD. My name's Greg Knapp, in for Chad on The Chad Benson Show.
No fake outrage here, just the real thing. The Chad Benson Show.
And my name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show. You can jump in at 844-DIG-CHAD, 844-DIG-CHAD. We're talking about the good economic news. And yes, some of it's because of forward purchasing, because of fears of tariffs. But the EU is now working with us on bringing tariffs down. Trade deal with NAFTA supposedly is going to be done in a month or two. China's still on the horizon. We'll see. And is Trump on the right track here, or is he marching us towards a trade war? Let me get Joe in, wanted to chime in on that. Joe, you were on the Chad Benson Show. My name's Greg Knapp, filling in. Go right ahead.
Yeah, hey, Greg, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Hey, so, look, I'm not an economist. I'm a small businessman. I've been a small businessman for about 40 years now. My thoughts are this. If you're not going to deal with trade now, when are you going to deal with it, with them taking advantage of us? Are you going to wait till it's $1 trillion a year? I mean, at some point, it's got to happen. And even the farmers, I was listening to guys, not the talking heads, but I was listening to guys that farm out. I'm in the middle part of California. Everybody thinks of L.A., but we're all ag here.
Right.
They understand. it's going to be, there may be a little bit of a bite at first. Now, with the European Union, the bite didn't take nearly as long as we were anticipating. But working Americans are not stupid, and I do classify that with working Americans.
Yeah.
Because I've seen the difference between those in the workplace and those who are entitlement-minded.
Right.
If I'm in business and I'm working with a guy, if he gives me a good deal on the products he's selling me, I have to turn around and give him a good deal with my services as well. But if he sticks it to me every time, he's going to pay my premium price.
Yeah, I understand. Joe, let me ask you this. Let me ask you two things I want to ask you about, because I agree. Look, for a long time, we've been allowing these countries to do this to us. And we can go back to the Marshall Plan after World War II. Hey, Western Europe was decimated. So we allowed a lot of this stuff to go on with tariffs and subsidies because they had to rebuild decades and decades ago. Okay, at some point, we have to level the playing field and say enough is enough. And China's been screwing us for a long time, including the intellectual property theft they've been doing. And like you said, if you're not going to address it now, when are you going to do it? But now here's the question. There's going to be some stings that come with this. Are the American people ready to handle that and absorb that, or will they knee-jerk reaction say, let's put the Democrats in charge to stop Trump?
Well, I think the best time to address it is with a booming economy. I'd hate to see the stings come when you're already hurting.
Right.
So no better time than now at 4.1%. That's phenomenal. And, like I said, I'm not an economist, but Trump said there's maybe another 3 or 4% out there if we get these trade deficits leveled even. Man, I'm telling you, everybody always, you listen to the talking heads, you listen to the media. Trump's a liar, Trump's a liar, Trump's a liar. But every time we turn around, what he said is going to happen, happened. What he said he was going to do, he did. And if he hasn't done what he said he was going to do, it's only because there's a half a dozen different groups and Congress who are opposing him.
It does seem like to me, Joe, that the important things he's getting done, and the stuff that are the lies are the things that don't really matter. Thanks for the call, Joe. I appreciate it. I'm going to let you hear what a CNN talking head said about all this in just a second. Greg Knapp in for Chad Benson.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent in thoughts and punk rock in life. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad Benson on the Chad Benson Show. You can jump in at 844-DIG-CHAD, 844-DIG-CHAD, and you're in as well. And I got to get you this one. We'll get back into what's going on with President Trump in a second, but President Clinton in the news. This is from NTK. Former President Bill Clinton interrupted by protesters. He was given a speech today. It was at the International AIDS Conference in Amsterdam, and sex workers protested. They were demanding the decriminalization of what they do. Decriminalization of sex workers worldwide. Here's what they chanted. Oh, sorry. This is what one of the protesters shouted. President Clinton, we demand for decriminalization of sex work worldwide and in the United States. I mean, they figured they had the right person. The right guy to talk to. Another protester shouted at Clinton, we know you support sex workers. Please help us. We'll throw in some freebies. No, they did not say that last part. That's not even right. And Greg, they could have shouted this at President Trump too. That's a fair point. Fair point. Neither one of them ever paid for it, Greg. Yeah, okay. All right. Understood. They thought they had a very open audience for that. 844-DIG-CHAD, get you on board the program. So we were talking about President Trump and the good week that he had with the economy, with North Korea, with the EU and the trade tariffs. A lot of good stuff going on. April Ryan didn't think so. April Ryan focused on Russia. She's very upset about what's going on with President Trump and Vladimir Putin. We'll get to more of that in a minute. But she also talked about President Trump becoming a dictator? Listen to April Ryan on CNN with Don Lemon. Let's hear cut 3, please.
This is very much connected. The president sees that his numbers are waning. He cannot be this dictator that he's trying to be at this moment. It reminds me of a song. Jay-Z, prolific rapper, prolific philosopher. I'm taking a quote from him. You know, Putin has got Donald Trump big pimping Donald Trump right now. Donald Trump thinks he can do whatever he wants to the world and this nation, and it's not happening. People are rising up. The farmers are rising up. His base. People are saying no more. Veterans are not showing up like he wants them to at rallies. And you see him going off the rails on Twitter because he's very upset and he's scared.
Big pimpin'. Jay-Z. Okay, let's break this down for a second. So first of all, she's saying he's acting like a dictator. He cannot be this dictator that he's trying to be at this moment. Okay, how is he being a dictator? So she says, what, trade? The only place that has any relevance to the idea of being a dictator, which means what I say goes and you're going around Congress, right, would be the trade tariffs. Because when he declares that trade with Canada is this national security concern with aluminum, then I say, well, wait a second. Come on, dude. That should be done through Congress. But he's using this is a national security issue to go around Congress. There, I believe he's overstepping his presidential power. But where was April Ryan when Obama was abusing his presidential power and saying, I'm going to go around Congress? She thought it was great. I've called Trump out for that. I want Congress to stand up and say, wait a second, we're but where other than that? Give me the ways. What she does instead is say these people are upset with Trump. Well, so? People are upset with the president all the time. So then she says, he cannot be this dictator that he's trying to be at this moment. It reminds me of a song, Jay-Z, prolific rapper, prolific philosopher. Putin has got Donald Trump big pimpin'. Donald Trump thinks he can do whatever he wants to this world and nation. It's not happening. All right, it's kind of hard to hear these lyrics. I want to read some of these lyrics to you, okay? By the way, according to the Washington Free Beacon, Jay-Z released that song in 2000. It was in 2010 that he renounced the song because of the sexually aggressive lyrics. He called them really harsh, and he wondered what kind of animal would write it. He wrote it with 2 other people. So this is a song about how he treats women. Big pimpin'. Listen to this. Okay, I'm gonna read this. Should I read this trying to be Jay-Z? No, that would be ridiculous. I'm going to read this in the total opposite of Jay-Z. Are you ready? Big Pimpin' by Jay-Z. You know I thug 'em, F 'em, love 'em, leave 'em. See, I have to bleep out some of this stuff, okay? 'Cause I don't effing need 'em. Take 'em out the hood, keep 'em looking good. But I don't effing feed 'em. First time they fuss, I'm breezin'. Talkin' 'bout what's the reasons. I'm a pimp in every sense of the word, B. Better trust than believe 'em. In the cut where I keep 'em. Till I need a bleep, till I need to beat the guts. Then it's beep beep, and I'm pickin' 'em up. Let 'em play with the D in the truck. Many chicks want to put bleep fist in cuffs. Divorce him and split the bucks. Just because you got good bleep, I'm a break bread. So you can be livin' it up. I parts with nothin'. Y'all be frontin'. Me give my heart to a woman, not for nothin', never happen. I'll be forever mackin', and so forth. That was really good. Worst reading of a rap song ever. Thank you very much. So that's what April Ryan, CNN political commentator, reporter for the Urban Radio Network, That's who she is calling the philosopher, the prolific philosopher, prolific rapper, Jay-Z. See, that song came to her head and reminds her that Putin has got Donald Trump big pimpin'. Huh? What? April talks more about dictatorship. Cut 4, please.
He wanted to fire Rosenstein, but now he's got other people to do his bidding. The rule of law is gone now. Yeah. Donald Trump, and we don't like to say it, but we are going down a line of a dictatorship. Russia and China, that's what we are.
Okay, first of all, President Trump could fire Rosenstein if he wants to, and there's nothing unconstitutional about it. He can fire his attorney general. He can fire his deputy attorney general. He can fire the head of the FBI. This is the executive branch. He is in charge of the executive branch. They serve at his pleasure. That is not a dictatorship. Secondly, there are 4 congressmen who want to impeach Rosenstein because they think he's doing a horrible job and should be stepping down and recusing himself from certain things that he's involved in. That is not a dictatorship. What is she talking? She just doesn't like it. So what she doesn't like, she's calling Trump acting like a dictatorship. You got to be kidding. Nope, she's not kidding. That's how it is. What do you think? 844-DIG-CHAD gets you involved with the program. 844-DIG-CHAD. I want to shift gears for a second, too, and I'll take your calls, though, on all those topics. You just let me know which one you want to talk about. I'm very open that way. I want you to have an opportunity to be part of the show. But I keep it moving. I want to talk about what's going on with the plastic straw ban. Now, I got to tell you, I am a non-involved party to this story because I don't use straws. I hate straws. I've never used straws. I tried to use straws when I was a kid, never liked them. I think the real reason is I like to crunch my ice. So every drink I have has ice in it, and I take the lid off the ice if you give it to me at a restaurant, and I take the straw out, and I want to have ice in every sip, and I want to crunch my ice. Okay, that's me. So I don't care. But what I've seen is I've never seen such ridiculous virtue signaling in my life. This whole plastic straw ban stuff started with a 9-year-old. 6 years ago, he was 9 years old, and he started calling around these straw manufacturing companies to try to find out how many straws we use. And his estimate was 500 million straws a day in the United States of America. Well, there's only 300 to 320 million people in the United States. So that means more than one straw for every man, woman, and child every single day we use. I'm not buying it. Well, that number was never confirmed. It's still just a guess. But that's always used in the media now as how many straws we use every day. And obviously, that's just so many. And obviously, when they get thrown away, they all end up in the ocean, and they're all killing Shamu and Flipper and the sea turtles, and we've got to do something about it. And if you don't think so, then you're a horrible, awful, evil person, and you should die. So we start to ban the plastic straw. Not just in California. There are restaurants I went to in Florida along the Pensacola beach where I was vacationing. They wouldn't give you a plastic straw. Now, like I said, I didn't want one, but my family did. Instead, you have to use the paper straw that melts in your mouth. Now, maybe it'd be worth it if you felt like you really were saving Flipper, right? So everybody, look at me. I'm using the paper straw. Look at us as a restaurant. We're getting rid of the plastic straws. But then people started to do some research, and guess what we found out? Out of all the plastic in the ocean, all the plastic junk that's floating in the ocean, you want to know how much of it is plastic straws? You ready? Big whopping number? Not 20%, not 2%. How about 0.02% of all the plastic junk floating in the ocean is from straws? Now let's go a step further. Out of all the plastic junk floating in the ocean, less than 1% of that is from the United States of America. So let's say America's in line with everybody else with the plastic straws, and 0.02% of 1% is how much of American straws are floating in the ocean. So now we're talking about 0.0002% of all the plastic straws in the ocean are there because of us. Oh, I'm sorry. The better way to say it is there's only 0.002% of the plastic floating in the ocean that are straws that could possibly have come from us. 0.0002%. And that's what's going to save Flipper? Right. Okay, now here's another level to it. You go and say, flipping from plastic straws to paper straws, is that really better for the environment? I don't know. First of all, we know they cost more. Plastic straw, 1 to 3 cents per straw. Paper straw, 7 to 10 cents per straw. So it's going to cost more. Why does it cost more? Does it cost more energy to make it? If it costs more energy to make it, does that mean more CO2 is going to the atmosphere when you make it? Are you using recycled straws, recycled paper? Because if you do, you got to use a lot of water to wash that paper, make sure it's clean, and then more energy to create the straw. Are you using more water and more energy and more CO2 that's actually going to be worse for the environment than if you made the plastic straws? And by the way, what if you actually used all the effort and all the money that you're using to switch to paper straws instead to go after the real problem in the ocean? There was a great piece in the Chicago Tribune that said 46% of all the plastic junk floating in the ocean is old thrown away plastic fishing nets. And that if we would simply have some kind of way to track whose fishing nets they are and hold them responsible, we could really decrease the plastic junk in the ocean and save the environment. But maybe you can't do that. Okay. How about what they did when they had the problem with the tuna nets catching the dolphins? What did we do? We said we weren't going to buy tuna that wasn't dolphin safe. So all the tuna companies went nuts getting their dolphin safe nets because money works, because nobody would buy the tuna that wasn't stamped dolphin safe. And now we've changed that and saved a lot of dolphins. Why don't you do the same thing like this for the plastic in the ocean instead of acting like hashtag no plastic straws and put your little selfie up there where you're sipping out of a limp paper straw? As if that's going to do something. But see, hashtag diplomacy, hashtag emotion, hashtag social justice warrior. We act like that's going to solve something instead of getting to the facts and really trying to fix a situation. Because it makes us feel better. And after all, isn't that what we really want? To feel better. I mean, it got so bad, Santa Barbara passed a law that was going to put repeat offenders of handing out a plastic straw in jail up to 6 months. And a $1,000 fine for every instance. And it got so bad when this hit the internet that Santa Barbara had to go, oh, no, we're not really going to do that. I mean, we're banning the plastic straws, but we're not going to put anybody in jail. But that's what your law says. The law says repeat offenders could face up to 6 months in jail. Well, that's just general wording. We're going to work. No one's going to go to jail for using a plastic straw or providing one to a customer. Well, then why did you say it? Well, we just, yeah, exactly. But they're still making it illegal in Santa Barbara. They're still making it illegal in Seattle. They're still making it illegal in San Francisco. And as Catherine Timpf points out, it could really hurt some businesses in California, including the bubble tea shops. The what? All right, I'll tell you about that in just a minute. And the socialist Democrat from New York, Octavia-Cortez, believe it or not, somebody on the left finally asked her how she was going to pay for all the so-called free stuff. We'll get you her answer in a minute. My name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad Benson. 844-DIG-CHAD gets you in. This is the Chad Benson Show.
Deep states? No. Deep doo-doo? Yeah. The Chad Benson Show.
Hey, how you doing? My name's Greg Knapp, in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show, 844-DIG-CHAD. I was telling you about the plastic straw ban in San Francisco, and Catherine Timpf points out San Francisco Chronicle had a piece that said there's one industry that's really going to get hurt with this, the bubble tea shops. The what? Don't you go to the bubble tea shop? I'm sure at least a couple times a week, right? I have no idea what the bubble tea shop is. All right, a bubble tea shop sells a tea-based drink that's called, it has tapioca pearls at the bottom. Bubbles. Big bubbles. Bubbles that are big that need a big straw. Big plastic straws. And without the big plastic straw, you can't slurp the bubbles into the straw, and then the drink doesn't taste right. There's 250 of these bubble tea shops in San Francisco. And they're like, well, first of all, it's going to cost us a lot of money because the plastic straws are only 1 to 3 cents. The paper straws are 7 to 10 cents. We don't have enough paper straws. They're not making enough paper straws. Maybe we could get bamboo straws, maybe some metal straws. Those would cost even more. But again, we don't have enough supply. San Francisco Department of Environment said, well, if they don't have enough by the time the ban's in play, we'll talk to them. What do you mean you'll talk to them? We'll try and work something out. But it's against the law. Well, we'll talk about it, see what we can do. Unintended consequences again. Well, it's only the bubble tea shops. I mean, really, who cares about the bubble tea shops? Hey, did you see the kid, the 17-year-old kid that broke into a house? It was out in Palo Alto, okay? 17-year-old kid breaks into the house of an elderly couple. They're in their 60s. They're in bed. He wakes them up. Now, he broke into their house. You'd think he'd be trying to sneak around. He breaks into their house and wakes them up. Why? He demanded the Wi-Fi password. His phone data was out. Dude, if you're jonesing that bad for some Wi-Fi, it's time to hit the Starbucks, the Panera Bread, the McDonald's. Come on, man. The older man frog marched him out of his house, kicked him out, and the cops caught him. We got a lot to do in hour 2. Hang tight. My name is Greg Knapp, in for Chad Benson on The Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent in thought and punk rock in life. It's the Chad Benson Show.
And my name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show. Lots of ways for you to join the broadcast. 844-DIG-CHAD, get you on board. 844-DIG-CHAD. You can also go online, chatthechadshow.com. And when you do that, over on the right, you'll see all the links to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can join in, and, of course, we got headlines and tweets and all kinds of stuff going on there. It's all at thechadshow.com and 844-DIG-CHAD to be a part of the broadcast. So one of the big stories that came out yesterday and today is this leak that Cohen, Trump's attorney, is now saying, according to sources, anonymous sources, CNN reporting, Michael Cohen prepared to tell Robert Mueller that Donald Trump approved the meeting at Trump Tower in 2016 between a Kremlin-linked lawyer and Donald Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, and Paul Manafort. There you go. There's the collusion. Okay, a couple things. First of all, that's not the collusion that this thing was about. This thing was supposed to be that the Trump campaign colluded with the Russians to hack into the DNC, steal their emails, and then leak their emails. That's what this is supposed to be about. That's number one. Number two, I find this really interesting. Now, remember, this meeting at Trump Tower was supposed to be, a woman said that she had dirt on Hillary Clinton that the Trump team needed to know about. It was set up by a very disheveled, chubby-looking dude from Great Britain who represented some Russian lounge singer or something. I mean, it's just the craziest thing ever, if you remember this story. And it's hard to keep up with everything that's been going on. But it's just the craziest thing ever and how this all got started. So Donald Trump Jr. took the meeting. We can debate whether he should or should not have taken the meeting. But by all accounts, this woman who came in that was supposedly going to tell him some bad things that Hillary Clinton did, maybe even including violating election law, instead started talking about adoptions and the Magnitsky Act and all kinds of stuff. And so they all left. Well, let me just get through a couple things here. So the allegation then would be that President Trump knew that this woman that was tied to the Russians was going to meet in Trump Tower and give him dirt, or give his people dirt on Hillary Rodham Clinton. So the first thing is Trump says it didn't happen. So now it's his word versus Cohen's word that he knew about this and approved it before it happened. But let's just say for a second that that is true, that President Trump did approve this meeting with this Russian lawyer who was going to give them dirt on Hillary Rodham Clinton. Let's look at one other piece to this. We know now as a fact that the Democratic National Committee and Hillary Rodham Clinton paid a law firm that employed Mr. Steele to talk with Russians who were in Russia to dig up dirt on Trump. So on the one hand, we have a Democratic Party and the Democratic presidential candidates' money being paid to people in Russia to dig up dirt on Trump, and that's perfectly okay. And that led to FISA warrants and investigation into the president. But if the presidential candidate on the Republican side took a meeting with somebody who said, hey, we got some really bad dirt on Hillary you need to hear about, that's colluding with Russia. I mean, really, think about it for a second. I don't understand why this isn't on the start of every report on this. Never once am I hearing them say, well, you know, it's really not even as bad as what Hillary Rodham Clinton's campaign and the DNC did in actually paying money that went to Russians to dig up dirt on the other candidate. Are you kidding? I'm living in bizarro world where that's perfectly okay and understandable and led to FISA warrants and investigations into the other presidential candidate. But if the other candidate, President Trump at the time, candidate Trump at the time, even took a meeting with somebody who might have dirt on the opposing candidate, that's colluding with Russia, and it's really something that should have him drummed out of office. Are you following me here? Of course, Trump denies it all. His tweets denial. He said, arrived back in Washington last night from a very emotional reopening of a major U.S. steel plant in Granite City, Illinois, only to be greeted with the ridiculous news that the highly conflicted Robert Mueller and his gang of 13 angry Democrats obviously cannot find collusion. The only collusion with Russia was with the Democrats. So now they're looking at my tweets, along with 53 other million people. I love how he sticks the knife in. The rigged witch hunt continues. How stupid and unfair to our country. And so the fake news doesn't waste any time with dumb questions. No, I did not know of the meeting with my son, Don Jr. Sounds to me like someone is trying to make up stories in order to get himself of an unrelated jam. Taxi cabs, maybe? He even retained Bill and Crooked Hillary's lawyer. Gee, I wonder if they helped him make the choice. So that's all from President Trump's Twitter feed. What do you think? Look, I don't want presidential candidates of either side, quote, colluding with Russia. But I also understand that presidential candidates on either side are always looking for dirt on the other person. They always pay investigators to try to find stuff. And if somebody comes to them and says, I got some dirt on the guy you're running against, they listen. Duh. What do you think? 844-DIG-CHAD gets you on board the program. 844-DIG-CHAD. But look, a lot of this depends on your tribe and what tribe you're behind. And I find it hilarious because this is now going to be a Donald Trump versus Michael Cohen credibility contest. And the very people on the left who said Cohen was just a toady for Trump, you couldn't trust a word that he said, this guy has no credibility at all. Now that he's ready to say some things that are going to hurt Trump, they're like, hey, you've got to trust this guy. Look, this guy was the president's lawyer. I mean, obviously he's telling the truth. He's got nothing to lose here. He's gonna. Well, sure he does. He has a lot to lose under this Mueller investigation. So now all of a sudden he's the most credible guy ever. And on the flip side, all the people that used to say Cohen is Trump's attorney, you got to trust him. He's a good guy. He's just trying to take care of the president. Now they're saying, oh, this scumbag and rat, you can't listen to anything he says. It's obviously no credibility in this at all. So everybody flips based on what they want. But to me, the bottom line is, even if he did approve this, so what? If he approved this, this is approving somebody coming to you and giving you dirt on the opposing candidate. Of course you take that meeting. Now, you could try and get all high. I would never take that meeting with somebody who's tied to the Russians. Yeah, you would. Yeah, you would. If you're running for president and they say they've got dirt on the other person, you would take that meeting. If you didn't, somebody in your campaign would. I'm telling you, or you're going to lose. Hillary Clinton's people are paying for it. And somehow that's okay. I just find that kind of interesting. 844-DIG-CHAD, get you on board the program. 844-DIG-CHAD. And You know, you talk about how unhinged people get based on their tribe. Cory Booker's out there telling people that Judge Kavanaugh and the people who support him are evil. Judge Kavanaugh, this is the guy who you really can't find a bad word about the guy from his students and from his coworkers. But, hey, you know, he's not going to vote the way I want people to vote, so therefore he's a horrible, awful dude. Cory Booker calling him evil and his supporters evil. Cory Booker telling people get up in the faces of some Congress people. Yet Cory Booker has also been saying he's tired of all this division in America. It's really pretty funny. This is a montage of cuts from Cory Booker put together by the Washington Free Beacon. And they showed the two faces of Cory Booker. This is cut 2, please.
I love Donald Trump. I'm going to say that. What? I don't want to answer his hate with hate. I'm going to answer it with love. I'm not going to answer his darkness with darkness. I love him.
I hurt. When Dick Durbin called me, I had tears of rage when I heard about his experience in that meeting. And for you not to feel that hurt and that pain, that's unacceptable to me.
There's too much hate, then generate more love. If there's too much meanness, find ways to be more kind to your fellow Americans.
You are either complicit in the evil, you are either contributing to the wrong, or you are fighting against it.
We are not called to be a nation of tolerance. We are called to be a nation of love.
That's sinister. It is, and it's evil to plot against Americans like that.
We need to stop the bull partisanship in this country. We really do.
As opposed to just doing her job. Well, we know what happened in Europe when people just did their job. It allowed the most evil kind of hate to proliferate.
Love of country demands that we love each other. We don't always have to agree or like each other, but love says, I see your worth, I see your value.
Please get up in the face of some Congress people.
If I saw an administrator in out and about, there's nothing wrong with confronting that person, but not to lead with love and to do it in a way that is more reflective of the values that we are trying to reject in our country is unacceptable to me.
Yeah, that's New Jersey Senator and presidential hopeful Cory Booker, the two faces of Cory, as the Washington Free Beacon puts it. Lead with love, but get up in their face, but lead with love. Confront them, but lead with love. They're evil, but lead with love. They're like Nazis, but lead... I mean, there comes the point all you can do is laugh, isn't there? And then Maxine Waters is in front of a crowd, and she was at the First AME Church in L.A., and then she said, no, this isn't a church. Remember, you're supposed to have tax benefits, not get taxed at all as a church because you're non-political. So she gets up in the church and starts hammering Trump. She said, we never dreamed we'd have someone in the White House who is divisive, who could not tell the truth, who is intent on not making America great again, but taking America down. See, I would say all that about President Obama. She's saying it about President Trump. I mean, really, I thought President Obama divided us over race. I thought President Obama lied a lot. And I thought President Obama didn't like America being the lone superpower. He wanted to take America down. Now, I also think Trump helps divide. I don't think he's a racist. I think that's ridiculous. And he also does tell lies, just like, unfortunately, every president that I can remember. But I do believe he's trying to make America great again. Anyway, back to Waters in a church. She said there is an attempt to intimidate, an attempt to frighten, an attempt to make you go away and shut up and be quiet. Are you kidding me? That's what you guys are doing. That's what the far left is doing. Anytime you say anything remotely supportive of this president, your very livelihood is threatened. Maxine Waters is the one that is telling people if you see anybody from the Trump administration, you should challenge them. You should protest them. You should shout them down. Whether they're at the restaurant or they're at a gas station or they're at the movies, you shouldn't let them just walk. She's the one trying to say this? She counseled her audience. Don't you worry about those who are threatening. You guys are the ones doing the threatening. Don't you worry about those who are talking about they're going to shoot. I know some of you got a little worried when I said to them, if you're going to shoot me, you better shoot straight. Wait, who got shot so far under the Trump administration? Oh, that's right. Republicans at the Republican baseball practice by a Bernie Sanders supporter. So who's getting shot? Goodness. And who's getting beaten up? Well, let's see. Where Trump's star got destroyed on the Walk of Fame, there were a couple people there trying to protect it, and there were people who hate Trump, and the people who hate Trump started a fight by hitting a guy. Yeah, that was on TMZ. Intense protests Thursday night on the Hollywood Walk of Fame next to Donald Trump's star. Singer-songwriter Joy Villa, Trump supporter, happens to be a black woman who was a singer. She sang the national anthem. Then two protesters squared off near the star. The anti-Trump person wanted to use the N-word, and the other one said you shouldn't use that word. And he said, I can if I want. They got into a little tete-a-tete, and the anti-Trump person punched him. And then the brawl kicked in, and people were jumping on. I mean, this is out of control. And the guy who smashed the Hollywood star is proud of it. Going on Twitter, proud of it. Why isn't this guy arrested for vandalism? I'll get you some details on that in just a second. And I also want to get you this story about what's going on with the socialism, because the Democratic Socialist in New York, she went on one of the late night shows with Trevor Noah, and he had the audacity to ask her how she was going to pay for all this free stuff. We'll get that, too, in just a moment. My name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on The Chad Benson Show.
Hashtag me too. Hashtag immigration reforms. Hashtag help. I'm trapped in a hashtag factory and I can't get out. The Chad Benson Show.
And my name is Greg Knapp, in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show. 844-DIG-CHAD gets you in. We were talking about the Trump Tower meeting. He said, I did not approve it. It's not true what Cohen said. My comment is, of course, even if it is true, they took a meeting with somebody that said they had dirt on Hillary Clinton. Well, Hillary Clinton and the DNC paid a guy to get Russians to dig dirt on Trump, and that's okay. But taking a meeting with somebody is not okay. It's just interesting. Let me get Josh in on this. Josh, you are on the Chad Benson Show. My name's Greg Knapp, filling in. Go right ahead. Hey, Josh. Uh-oh, might have had a problem with Josh. That's all right. 844-DIG-CHAD, and you can jump in. The other thing I was talking about were the people that were beaten up by the Trump star simply because they were there as Trump supporters. I think you probably heard about the guy that tore it up. We'll get to that in a second. We do have Josh. I apologize. We had trouble with the phone. Josh, go right ahead. I guess we don't.
All right, sorry about that.
There he is. Go ahead, Josh.
Low service area.
Yes, sir.
All righty. I guess I just...
It's one of those days. Sorry, Josh, man. Bad service area, so we're not going to be able to hear what you had to say. I apologize. 844-DIG-CHAD if you're in a good service area, and we'll take your call. The guy that smashed Trump's Hollywood star, he's happy about it. He's excited about it. He's going online to brag about it. And what I want to know is, it costs about $3,000 to replace this star. He vandalized this property, and he's bragging about it online. Is he not going to be arrested? No, he says he did a real good act, and he's heard from people in Hollywood praising him for it. He said, I just felt really passionate because of what happened with the immigrants and Trump stripping children away from their parents. Oh, we'll get into that in a little bit. And that just sort of set me off. So because he doesn't like the fact that Trump was enforcing the law, and I didn't like parents and children being separated either, but of course part of that goes to our law and the 20 days that you're allowed to have a minor in a detention facility and how many can fit in a family detention facility. But you don't want to hear any of that. He thinks he has the right to destroy $3,000 worth of property and be excited about it, and Robert De Niro excited about it. And isn't that against the law? More on this in a second. My name's Greg Knapp, in for Chad Benson.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent in thoughts and punk rock in life. It's the Chad Benson Show.
My name is Greg Knapp in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show, 844-DIG-CHAD, and I've got some more good news for you for a change. This is amazing. You probably have heard of Tim Tebow, former Gator quarterback, Heisman Trophy winner, tried it in the NFL, didn't go so great. Then he goes to baseball, was playing pretty well for the Mets minor league organization. People were talking about maybe he'll be brought up at some time during the season, and he broke his hand. So he's done for the season. But he's not done doing good things because he has a foundation and a hospital in the Philippines that he helps support. And it's doing great work. And it really has helped change the life of an 11-year-old boy. This is up at foxnews.com, and we'll see if we can get it up at the chadshow.com website, because it's really, really amazing what is going on here. This little 11-year-old boy had something called a congenital knee dislocation. And essentially, his knees are on like a flamingo's knees are on. His knees bent the wrong way, and it looks horrible, the photo of what he looked like. It looks painful, looks very difficult to walk. He said he couldn't go outside and play like the other kids. Other kids made fun of him. How do you make fun of a kid whose knees are on backwards? I mean, really? Man, sometimes we're just horrible to each other. So he really had trouble in his life. So the Tim Tebow Foundation and Cure International got together at the Tebow Cure Hospital in the Philippines. And a team of 3 surgeons did a 4-hour surgery. And they realigned his joints, his tendons, his femur bones, put his legs in a cast to protect the soft tissue and the tendon repairs, and now he's in physical therapy. And they say with a lot of really hard physical therapy, he's going to be able to walk normally. There's a picture of him before the surgery and after the surgery, and before the surgery, he looks like a human flamingo, and it looks like the most painful thing I could ever imagine. And after the surgery, he's standing up like a regular little boy. And it's because of your donations to the Tebow Foundation and his work and his dad's work in the Philippines. There's a lot of good stuff going on out in the world, man. There's a lot of people that are absolutely putting forward their beliefs into reality. The mother of this little boy said when he had the surgery, it was okay because their staff gave us encouragement and they take care of us very well. They encouraged me. And they gave me strength that God knows and has an idea on what is best for him. God is in control, just like your doctors and whatever is good for Aldrin. End quote. It was out of the video that she did with Tim Tebow. It's just amazing. Good stuff. Good stuff. I got a question for you here. When do we take old laws off the books that don't seem to make any sense anymore? I don't know that it ever made sense. Here's what I'm talking about. In North Carolina, a man got really upset that his wife cheated on him with another man. Okay, so far sounds pretty normal for somebody whose wife cheated on him. But he decided that he was going to use the law in North Carolina to go after the guy who had sex with his wife. Wait, what do you mean the law? Well, there's a handful of states, including North Carolina, where you can actually go after the person who had sex with your spouse. And the Durham County judge gave this guy $8.8 million from the man who had sex with his wife. What? Well, evidently the guy's pretty rich. He's the owner of a BMX bike stunt show company. And so the judge said he had to pay the man whose wife he slept with $2.2 million in compensatory damages and 3 times that in punitive damages. And here's what the law says. You can sue people for criminal conversation when the person has sex with a married person before they're separated. And you can sue them for alienation of affection when, quote, genuine love and affection has been destroyed by the person. Now, I just got to ask you, should we have this law? I mean, whose fault is it that your wife slept with another man? Or whose fault is it that your husband slept with another woman? Isn't it their choice to do that? I mean, we're talking about consensual acts here. We're not talking about rape. So a consensual affair, and you have the right to sue the person? I mean, the person who had sex with your spouse didn't break any contract. They didn't stand before friends and usually before God and say, I vow to stay with this person till death do us part and to only be with this one person. The person who broke the contract is the spouse. The other person was just, hey, I'm game if you are. For that, he owes $8.8 million? That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't see where the state, where the government has the right to get involved between a consensual relationship of two people. Why in the world should the government step in there and make that somehow not a crime? It's a civil situation, but why should they even get involved with that civilly for money? We say, well, Greg, don't you see how bad divorce is in this country? And maybe this will help keep the divorce rate down because people will be afraid, hey, I might have to pay some money. I might have to actually get hurt in the wallet if I go ahead and have sex with a married man or a married woman. Why is that the government's business? Well, because it's bad for society. Man, you go down that path and then everything's the government's business. The problem is between the man and the woman who are married, and the problem is between that person and the person they're having the affair with. They should all work it out, but it shouldn't have anything to do with you or me or our government. Sometimes you got to take these bad laws off the books, man. They need to get this thing off the books. This is stupid. What do you think? 844-DIG-CHAD gets you involved in the program. 844-DIG-CHAD. You can also go to thechadshow.com for more info. You want to talk about stupid? Thinking that you can get stuff for free. And this is the new Democratic playbook. Democratic socialism. Look, I love this. I've seen some of the people in mainstream media say, conservatives are trying to make it seem like this new Democratic socialist in New York is the future of the party. Wait a second. Republicans are trying to say that? Or was it the head of the Democratic National Committee, Perez himself, who actually came out and said she is the face of the Democratic Party? She is the future of the Democratic Party, was the quote. She is the future of the Democratic Party. That was the quote. And now it's the Republicans' fault? Okay, hold on a second. That doesn't make any kind of sense. So, the woman who won this seat in New York, Octavia-Cortez, self-avowed Democratic socialist, went on the Daily Show with Trevor Noah. And Trevor Noah wanted to show that, hey, man, I'm going to hit her hard. I'm going to ask her how she's going to pay for this. The problem is he didn't do any follow-up. But at least he asked her. After she talked about, Medicare for all for free, education through college for free, and on with all these free things, free housing, right? These are human rights. He said, well, how are you going to pay for it? He said, you always see people coming in with economic arguments, and they say, look, these numbers don't really add up. In order to get health care for everybody, this is what it would cost. That's going to be troubling. Even if you reverse the Republican tax deal, that's only going to make up 5% of what we need to pay for Medicare for all. How do you pay for education? How do you pay for all these ideas? So Ocasio-Cortez said, well, I just met with a Nobel Prize economist last week, and we sat down and talked about it. And then she went through how you're going to pay for it. Now, this is what we talk about. You can't fix stupid. How dare you say stupid? Well, wait till you hear what I'm talking about. You got to at least be able to do basic math, okay? So she starts off saying this. One of the things that we saw is if people pay their fair share, okay, here we go with the fair share. What do you mean by fair share? I mean, right now, the top 1% pays more than their fair share. If you look at the amount of income they earn and then look at the amount of the income taxes they pay, they're paying a higher percentage of income taxes than a percentage of the income they earn. Now, there are some people that get away with it. There are some people that have enough lawyers that they get all around it. But I'll tell you, the top 10% is paying more than their fair share. The top 30% is paying more than their fair share. Who's not paying their fair share is the bottom 50%. But nobody wants to talk about that. And I've got all the numbers for you. on exactly how fair their share is, but that's a whole nother topic. So let's get back to her talking about how she's going to pay for it, right? Well, she says, if we reverse the tax bill and raise our corporate tax rate to 28%, that's $2 trillion right there. Okay, a couple problems with that. Number one, even Bill Clinton had to admit that when you raise the corporate income tax rate, you actually see fewer tax dollars coming in. And when you lower the corporate tax rate, you saw an increase in tax revenues. It's happened every time. And Obama was asked that by none other than an ABC anchor, Charlie, I'm blanking on his last name. Charlie Gibson? Is that right, if I'm remembering correctly? And he said exactly what I'm saying to President Obama during a presidential debate. And he said, so why would you want to increase that? And Obama said, for fairness. But wait a second, you're going to get less money for the Treasury and less money to do things with the American government. But so why would you do it? Fairness. Right, it makes no sense. So that's number one. But then you look at this, she said, well, that's $2 trillion right there. Now remember, when Bernie Sanders was running on Medicare for All, do you remember what Bernie Sanders said he thought it would take to pay for it? Bernie Sanders now. So he's trying to keep the number low to say, it's not that hard to pay for it. Medicare for All, Bernie Sanders said would cost $14 trillion over 10 years. Now, other estimates are all the way up to $28 trillion over 10 years. So here's Octavia-Cortez saying she's going to get $2 trillion over 10 years by increasing the corporate tax rate and making the rich pay their so-called fair share. $2 trillion over 10 years. Not $14 trillion over 10 years. Not $28 trillion over 10 years. 2. That ain't going to do it, sister. Not even close. By the way, Medicare's already broke right now with the people we're helping now. Then she goes on. One of the wide estimates is it's going to take $3 trillion to $4 trillion to transition us to 100% renewable energy economy. So we've got $2 trillion from folks paying their fair share. Okay, now wait a second. I thought she was going to spend that $2 trillion on Medicare for All. Now she says she's going to spend that $2 trillion on transitioning us to 100% renewable energy. So $2 trillion, she said it would take $3 to $4 trillion. We're already $1 or $2 trillion in the hole. Wait, what? So then she goes on, if we implement a carbon tax on top of that so that we can transition and financially incentivize people away from fossil fuels, then that's an additional large amount of revenue we can have. She never says how much, and she never talks about how much that's going to hurt the economy, when you're taxing energy. And then she said the last key, extremely, extremely important, is reprioritization. Just last year, we gave the military a $700 billion budget increase. No. $70 billion increase. $700 billion is almost the entire defense budget. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She's so far in her explanation, $1 trillion to $2 trillion in the hole, and Trevor Noah never even challenged her on any of those numbers. That's how she's going to pay for it. That's why I said stupid. And yet, hey, plenty of people willing to vote for her because they don't know anything about this. They don't know how to pay for it. They're not paying attention to the facts. They're putting hashtag human right for housing, hashtag human right Medicare for all, hashtag human right education for all for free. And they don't care how you pay for it. And they don't care that it won't work. And they don't care that it's never worked. And they don't care about how it's going to kill the economy. They don't care about any of that because they want to look good on Twitter. And they want to feel good. What do you think? 844-DIG-CHAD gets you on board the program. 844-DIG-CHAD. My name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad Benson on The Chad Benson Show.
Are you PC and groupthink brainwashed? Time for a double detox shot of Chad.
Well, my name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad Benson on The Chad Benson Show. You can jump in at 844-DIG-CHAD, or you can jump in online, thechadshow.com. On there, over on the right, all the social media links. Click that. Get involved there as well. Last hour, I told you about the 17-year-old kid who broke into a 60-year-old's house, woke him up in his bedroom, and said, "Give me your Wi-Fi password." What? "My phone's out of data. Give me your Wi-Fi password." Dude kicked him out of his house. Kid got arrested. It was craziness. Well, here's another craziness on the opposite end. This time, we've got a 74-year-old man. This is in North Carolina. And he was outside the Verizon wireless store, and they closed. And he's mad because his phone's not working. So he goes up to the door and he's like, hey, fix my phone. A witness said that he saw this guy, Charles Hager, standing outside the store. It's in between two restaurants. And he said, you got to open up and fix my phone. He said he was demanding for his phone to be fixed. He said, quote, my damn phone's not working. I need help. Open this damn door. And he started kicking it. He shattered the glass. All right. Well, they were whoa, dude, calm down. Guy goes back to his car and purposefully drives his car through the glass, shattered the glass into the Verizon store. Now, 6 employees were in there. Thankfully, nobody got hurt. And, people gathered around. The dude got out of his car and continued to yell about his phone. Man, you do not mess with people and their phones. We are out of control. The data's gone. I'm breaking into a house. I got to get the Wi-Fi password. My phone's not working. I'm driving my car through the Verizon wireless store. You will get 74-year-old dude. My dad's 80-something. He could care less if his phone works. Could not care less if his phone works, I guess. Well, maybe he's just a little bit older than this guy. 74 years old. I don't know. Maybe he needed to take a selfie. Maybe he had to play Candy Crush. You don't understand what's going on with these cell phones. All right, and I was telling you about socialism and how there's no way you can pay for it, and Octavia-Cortez has no idea what she's talking about, and nobody's following up on it with her. But campus reform did follow up with some of her constituents. They went to her district in New York City. Campus reform, Cabot Phillips did a video. And he was asking them, what do you think of her policies? What do you think of her ideas? And the people he was talking to said, yeah, that sounds good. Free housing, free education, Medicare for all this stuff. And then, so, of course, he said, well, how are you going to pay for it? Here's some of the answers. So one woman said, well, some of it should come from taxes, but the government should pay for it. Wait, what? So Kevin Phillips had to remind her, well, the government's funded by taxes. And her answer was, yeah. Okay, moving on. Another guy said this when asked how it would all be paid for. I don't know where the money would come from, but they can figure it out. See, this is what I'm saying. When you look at what Ocasio-Cortez is saying, and you even point out the facts, the flaws in her math, the flaws in where the money's going to come from, the flaws in her economic policies, they don't care. Because they just think you're lying. Because they don't like you. Because they don't like the fact that you're going to point this out. Another one. I'm liberal. I don't know exactly, where I stand, but I know, democratic socialism is better than conservative. It's a better option. Okay, in what way? When I think of it, I just think of, more open-minded people that aren't, as economically conserved. I think she meant conservative. I weep for our future sometimes. My name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad Benson. This is the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent in thoughts and punk rock in life. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Hey, how you doing? My name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show. You can jump in. 844-DIG-CHAD. 844-DIG-CHAD. Tell everybody what you think on all the hot topics that we're talking about today. You can also go online, thechadshow.com. There you can listen to podcasts. You can also check out all the social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, that Chad puts his stuff on, and you can interact with them that way as well. I want to start this hour something kind of different because it just opens up this question about how we handle justice in the United States. There's a guy in Georgia, and his name is Giovanni McCoy, and he got in trouble for homegrown stuff. And it used to be in the South, homegrown was your homegrown moonshine, right? And that's how NASCAR got started. Well, now homegrown is homegrown pot. Now, Georgia, it's still illegal to grow marijuana, even for your own personal use. Georgia's still that way. And they busted him with a pound of homegrown in his residence. Busted. They got him. Dead to rights. Hand in the cookie jar. So he goes to trial, and he tells the truth. It's in Dublin, Georgia. Did you do this? Yep, I did it. I grew it. It's mine. You're admitting you did it? Yeah, I'm admitting it. You see, I was beaten into a coma in 2003. And I've had a lot of pain, and I've had a lot of trouble in rehabilitation. And the only thing that's really been helping me with the pain is the marijuana. So I've been growing it at home. You know, I mean, all that other stuff. I don't want to get on the opioids. I have to pay for all this. I'm just growing pot, and I've been using it, and it's been taking care of me. He's self-medicating with the pot. And he was totally 100% honest. And maybe his lawyer's a genius because his lawyer went in front of the jury and told them about jury nullification. Now, many people say jury nullification is a myth. But jury nullification is basically when the 12 members of the jury say, we really don't care what the law says. We're going to find you not guilty. Can they do that? Yep, they can. So his attorney said, hey, you, the jury, have the power to nullify a law you disagree with, at least as it pertains to the specific case that you are considering. So the lawyer said, look, does it really make sense to send this otherwise law-abiding, hard-working man to prison over some plants he grew in his own home for his own use? If they had found him guilty, there was a mandatory 1-year sentence that was attached to that guilty verdict. Maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe the jury thought to themselves, do we really want to send this guy to jail for a year for growing plants in his house for his own personal use? Not hurting anybody, not selling it, not dealing it. Do we really want to do that? And I think that's why so many states have started to legalize marijuana. You know, I'm a conservative, I tell you that straight up front. I think it's conservative to legalize marijuana. Because I think if you want to do that as an adult to your body, and you're not bothering anybody else, why should I tell you no? And when you look at it from a logical point of view, is it really helping us to make it illegal? Is it really helping us fight gangs? Is it really helping us with the drug cartels? Is it really helping us with the gangs? Does it make sense? It doesn't to me. And would it have made sense to send this guy to jail for a year for growing plants in his house that he smoked? No. The jury said no. They found him not guilty. He was guilty. He was 100% guilty. The jury appreciated his honesty throughout the case and recognized that a good, hardworking man living a quiet life and not bothering anyone didn't deserve a felony conviction for his actions. That's from the attorney in a Facebook post. Now, she says she doesn't like the term jury nullification. She said it's really just part of being a jury. The jury judges the law and the facts. And she said it helped that the jury was made up of people like him, just working class people. That's why you want a jury of your peers, right? McCoy said, they saw I wasn't bothering nobody. What do you think? Is it okay for a jury to do that? To say, you know what? We know what the law is. We know this guy broke the law, but the law is stupid. And we're not going to send this guy to jail for a year, costing the taxpayer money to take care of him, taking away his freedom, when this guy right now is a contributing member to society. He's out there working. He's not hurting anybody. He's not doing anything really that we should concern ourselves with. What do you think? 844-DIG-CHAD, get you on board. 844-DIG-CHAD. If I was on that jury, I would have said not guilty too. How about you? But Greg, you couldn't. But you got to do what the law said. Sometimes the law is wrong. Well, then we should change the law. You're right. We should change the law. But if I'm sitting there and I'm asked, are you going to find this man guilty, which has a mandatory 1-year sentence because he grew some plants and smoked them in his own house? I'm saying no. I'm not going to do that. And if that means that I didn't follow the law to the letter, that means I'm not going to follow the law to the letter. I don't like a lot of our drug laws. I think they're wrong, and I think they should change because I don't think it's helping us. I don't think it's helping the people that really need to get help to get off the drugs. I think it's making it so that the drug dealers make more money, the drug cartels make more money, the gangs are able to get more weapons. I mean, it's so bad. You see, in Mexico, I think I got the story right because I just saw it a minute ago. There's a German Shepherd that the authorities are using. It's either Mexico or Colombia or somewhere they have a lot of drugs. And the German Shepherd is really good at sniffing out the drugs. I mean, it's like their top dog and busted all kinds of people. So the cartel is putting a price on the head of the dog. Going to kill the dog because it's taking away our money. Well, if the drugs are legal, that money's not there. That money incentive's not there. It's like Al Capone with alcohol. You made alcohol illegal. You had prohibition. What did that do? It created the organized crime. Well, that's different. It's totally different. I don't know that it's totally different. I really don't. And I'm glad that this guy didn't get sent to jail for a year. 844-DIG-CHAD gets you on board the program. 844-DIG-CHAD, and you are in. You can also get on at thechadshow.com. You know what is something crazy? This story just is really weird. I don't even remember it. Evidently, it started in 2016. An Obama advisor, former Obama advisor, William Mendoza, Education Department official, served as executive director of the White House Initiative on American Indian and Alaska Native Education, had to resign back in 2016. Why? He was charged with attempted voyeurism. Well, now the surveillance video has been released from the D.C. Metro. You know, the subway in Washington, D.C., the D.C. Metro? And what they showed was this guy, married man, Education Department official, ex-Obama advisor. He's caught on surveillance camera, and he's walking behind this woman in a skirt, and he's got his phone out, and it's down low, and he's trying to take upskirt photos. What? I've never understood the whole upskirt photo thing, man. Really? That's what's going to get you your jollies? Walking around taking photos of women's underwear without their consent. Something is seriously wrong with you, man. I mean, you're going Harvey Weinstein on us now. Harvey Weinstein never did anything like that. You're right, I'm sorry, but he was much worse. But why would you do what? So they find him following her up the escalator, and he's walking around. He's got his phone in his hand. He's trying, and he was given a 90-day suspended jail sentence and 1-year probation and a $100 fine last year. But now, finally, the surveillance is coming out. He pleaded guilty to just one count, allegedly accused of attempting to take upskirt photos of at least 4 times on his government-issued phone. Resigned before the probe could complete from the Obama administration into his conduct. So, again, using government equipment to do this stuff. That's even better. But, you know, I mentioned Harvey Weinstein. Now the new one is CBS, Leslie Moonves, and he's being accused of some inappropriate sexual contact. And when this story first came out today, CBS stock slid like 7%, and they said it was 20 years ago, and it was unwanted touching and kissing. And so I was thinking, oh, wait a second now, 20 years ago, unwanted touching and kissing? And CBS lost 7% of its stock today. So people who had that in their portfolio took a tumble today. Maybe some day traders made some money on it. I don't know. Maybe they sold it short. Maybe they're trying to, who knows? But I think we are getting to the point where it's getting a little crazy. We're getting to the point in this whole Me Too movement thing that we're putting every type of inappropriate behavior in the same bucket. In other words, whether you forcibly rape someone or at the end of a date you thought was going well, you tried to kiss somebody and they didn't like it, and you stopped as soon as you realized that they didn't like it, we're putting that in the same bucket. The rapist and the guy who thought it was time to have a kiss, we're calling them the same people. That's insane. Okay, there is a continuum across the board of good and bad behavior when it comes to interacting with the opposite sex. And we're putting them all in one bucket now. Maybe we need to tap the brakes just a little bit. You're trying to blame the victim. What are you talking about? I haven't even talked about the victim yet. You are trying to say that there's nothing wrong with rape. What are you? I'm trying to say a guy. For instance, my daughter went out with a guy one night. She didn't even think it was a date. She just thought they were friends. And they're talking a long time in the car. And as they get out, he tries to kiss my daughter. She was like 17, 18 at the time. She goes, oh, whoa, I'm sorry. We're just friends. I really don't see you that way. And stopped the kiss. And he stopped. Well, is that considered an unwanted kiss? Or is it that the guy was reading my daughter's signals wrong? And that was it. And they were done. I have no hard feelings against the boy, and neither does my daughter. She's just like, oh, I feel bad for him. He thought I was into him, and I really wasn't into him. That's totally different than if that boy had said, too bad I'm kissing you, and pinned her against the car and kissed her. Then I'd be really mad at that kid, and I'd want to go beat the crap out of him. But we're putting it all into the same bucket, as if there's no difference between that stuff, all the way up to forcible rape. So what exactly is Leslie Moonves being accused of, and did he do it before the CBS stock falls 7%? Then you had Ronan Farrow, who's the guy who was actually writing the piece that hasn't been released yet. This is all secondhand information about what his piece is supposedly going to say. And he tweeted out, hey, look, I don't talk about stuff that hasn't been published yet. And don't believe what you've heard, especially when some may be wanting to spin it as being less than it really is. So is there more here than just unwanted touching and kissing? Or is there nothing here and CBS stock took a 7% tumble for nothing? And it's getting crazy. These stories have real life consequences. I want people to face the music if they have abused women. But I also want us to be a little bit more accurate about what we're saying before the music stops. What do you think? I want your thoughts on it. 844-DIG-CHAD. 844-DIG-CHAD, and you are in. I've got the latest on what's going on with illegal immigration and the reunification of the children and the parents. We'll get to that, too. My name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on The Chad Benson Show.
Welcome to Chad. No, not the country. The institution. The Chad Benson Show.
Hey, how you doing? My name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on The Chad Benson Show. Hope you have great plans for the weekend. Take a little time off, man. Relax. Unplug from social media. Really just chill with the family. You're going to be very glad you did. All right, 844-DIG-CHAD gets you on board the program. I want to update you on what's going on with the illegal immigration situation because, unfortunately, we're not getting the full picture from the mainstream media. No, really? Yeah, I know. It's hard to believe. But let's go back real quick just to remember what happened. So what happened was we had people coming into the country illegally. President Trump said, I'm going to actually enforce the law. The law says that you can't hold minors in an adult facility. And the law says that you can only hold minors at all for 20 days. So here are the options. You can hold the entire family in a family detention center. But if you hold them more than 20 days, you have to let the kids go. Or you can, if you have the detention centers are too full for the family, you can put the adults in adult detention facilities and turn the children over to HHS in a different facility, but now they're separated. None of these sound very good. And I don't want children and parents separated. I don't think anybody does. That's why I liked Ted Cruz's idea, and it was we're going to double the number of judges on the border to handle these asylum cases. And that way, within 14 days, we're going to figure out you either get asylum or you don't. So you're either allowed in the country with asylum or you're sent back home with your kids within 14 days. So nobody has to be separated. Unfortunately, we didn't follow through with that because we've got a crazy Congress, and even President Trump didn't seem to like that idea, which I don't understand. However, the other part of this that they have left out is, and almost never reported, if you go into the United States through a legal port of entry and claim asylum, you are not separated from your children. Totally different situation. But what happened was they were coming in illegally, hoping not to get caught, and then when they got caught, they yell, oh, asylum, I want asylum, because they got caught. They were coached on this. So unfortunately, we had the situation with the separation. Well, now they're reuniting them based on the court orders, and here's the latest. More than 1,800 children have been reunited with their parents and their sponsors. However, there are still some who are not put back together. 1,442 children 5 and older have been reunified with their parents. 378 others who were released in other appropriate circumstances, including to their sponsors. And more than 700 parents who have been deemed not eligible or currently not eligible. What does that mean? Well, they're saying because some of them might endanger the children. But how about this? About 400 were deported without their children. Wait, how dare we? We deported people without their children? Well, there's something to that story you need to understand that will blow your mind. I'll get to that in just a second. 844-DIG-CHAD. My name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad Benson. This is the Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent in thoughts and punk rock in life. It's the Chad Benson Show.
My name's Greg Knapp, in for Chad Benson Show. You can jump into 844-DIG-CHAD. 844-DIG-CHAD. We're talking about the latest on the illegal immigration thing, and I want to make sure you understand me. I don't want parents and children separated at all. But the part that's left out is, you can come in through a legal port of entry to claim asylum, and you're not separated. But now we're trying to get these people back together, and they're, according to the Homeland Security Secretary who was on the Bret Baier Show on Friday, I think it was, she said 400 people have been deported without their children. And I thought, what? We're doing what? And then she said, by their choice. Well, wait a second. What do you mean by their choice? You mean, like you said, hey, you're not getting asylum, so we need to send you home, and we're going to bring your kid. And they go, no, I don't want my kid to come with me. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Like they're waiving their parental rights because they don't want to take their kid home with them. Wait a second. I thought the whole thing was you didn't want to be separated. Well, the whole thing really is we want to be in America. Well, why? I mean, we're such a racist, hate-filled, xenophobic country. Why would you even want to come? Come on, Greg. It's because they want a better life. Yes, I do. The ones who are coming here to work hard, I feel for them. I do. But we can't take everybody. And how is it fair to have people skip the line in front of the people who are waiting to do it correctly? Why do we never talk about that? And what about the people who are legal immigrants? What about the people in this country who are low-skilled wage earners and what it does to their jobs? Isn't the government of America supposed to be for Americans first, then legal immigrants, but not for illegal aliens who are coming in? But let me get back to this whole thing of leaving your child. Well, obviously, Greg, that just shows you how bad it is in their home country, that they're willing to leave their child here for a better life. That just shows how much they love their child. Well, that's tough. That's really tough for me to wrap my head around because, hold on a second. Remember when President Trump got in so much trouble for calling the countries where the illegal aliens were coming from S-hole countries? Bleep hole countries. How dare he? He's insulting entire nations. These are not bleep hole countries. Then why are you leaving your kid here instead of taking your child back home with you? What do you mean? Well, you can't have it both ways. It can't be that it's horrible to call it a bleep hole country because it's not. And then you turn around and tell me it's so horrible in that country that you'd rather leave your child in another country, right? I mean, what would it take for you to leave your child, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old? What would it take for you to leave your child in a foreign country and go back to your home country to live? it'd have to be a pretty desperate situation, wouldn't it? So it must be that they're coming from bleep hole countries. You can't have it both ways. The only way I would ever leave my child would be something like, if they come home with me, they're going to die. I mean, the Holocaust. Okay. Otherwise, I'm finding a place in that bleep hole country where I can take care of my family. Oh, that's easy for you to say. You're right. It is easy to say. But there's no way I'm leaving my child. So there's something fishy going on here. What do you think? 844-DIG-CHAD gets you on board the program. 844-DIG-CHAD and you're in. A couple other ones on this. Now, Representative Crowley, Democrat, New York, the one that got beat by Ocasio-Cortez, he's saying it was so horrible that these families who came into the country illegally and by our court had to be separated because they were held for more than 20 days. It was so horrible, we all need to pay them money. What? Yeah, he wants compensation for the children and the families, and of course, that money would come from you, the taxpayer. Meanwhile, the Democrats have gone so crazy into this whole get rid of ICE, abolish ICE thing, that the far lefties have been doing protests outside the ICE offices, and one in particular in Portland, they've been protesting every day since June the 17th. And there are agents there trying to keep things calm. Federal officers policing the building. Federal officers, not the ICE people, but federal officers there to police the building and to keep the protests calm, and so nobody gets killed and nobody gets hurt, nobody, gets beaten up. And now we're finding out from these federal officers that the protesters, the whole love Trump's hate people, they're calling these federal officers every name in the book. Email records obtained by the Oregonian say that these officers are being insulted every minute of the day, and at times with racially charged insults. I thought these were the love Trump's hate people. Emails obtained by the Oregonian, one African-American officer reported to an administrator that the protesters began yelling racial slurs at him, including the N-word. They called him a blood traitor. They called him an Uncle Tom. His email said, these racial slurs have been directed at me throughout the entire length of deployment. Isn't that nice? The ones that are all full of love, and they're calling him every name in the book and using every racial epithet they can think of. There's a female Hispanic Native American woman, and she said she has been called derogatory terms for Hispanic people and told she is a, quote, weak female and a traitor. Quote, I was berated for so long I can't even remember everything that was told to me. Nice, huh? Love Trump's hate. Coexist. Can't we all get along? Trump's the evil one. Third officer reported he and other federal agents had been insulted and harassed almost nonstop by these demonstrators. They were called murderers, rapists, and Nazis. Quote, they have yelled continuously that they hope we die. They hope our families die. But remember, the Trump supporters are the bad people. Just want to make sure you understand that. And while ICE is being accused of everything that you could possibly think of, Immigration Customs Enforcement Agency caught 132 illegal aliens in Washington, D.C. over the last 2 weeks. They called it Operation Eagle Shield, targeted various violent offenders, gang members. Oh, there are no gang members that come over here illegally. That's all just made up by Trump. Gang members, sex offenders, fugitives from justice, and those who otherwise pose a significant public safety threat. What they said they caught included an El Salvadorian national who is a high-ranking member of the gang MS-13. They also caught a Bolivian national with 4 prior convictions for rape and intercourse with a victim under 13. Also arrested, among many others, were those convicted or accused of heinous crimes including felony sexual abuse, felony sodomy, felony strangulation, and more. The illegal aliens arrested came from Bolivia, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Fiji, Guatemala, Honduras, Jamaica, Mexico, Mongolia, Peru, Philippines, South Africa, and Sudan. We should abolish ICE. They're just horrible, awful, evil people. And then one little last piece of this that just blows me away. There are a couple polls out this week on whether or not illegal aliens should be allowed to vote in the United States of America. Well, wait, what? Wait a second. Legal aliens should not be able to vote in America. American citizens should be able to vote. That is a right and a privilege of American citizens. Well, but wait a second. If you live here and pay tax, no. Because you need to be an American citizen. And if you're coming to this country, you need to do the work to become an American citizen so that you actually care enough to have an educated vote. Well, there are cities that have already decided that illegal aliens can vote in local elections. See, because they're in charge of that. They can't do it for federal elections, but for local elections they can if the city decides. And that's been kind of moving through liberal cities. Well, The Hill and Harris X put a poll together, and they found that majorities of both parties said no, illegal aliens shouldn't vote. 91% of Republicans said they opposed giving the right to vote to non-citizens. 54% of Democrats said they opposed that. And when asked the question with the term illegal immigrant, 91% of Republicans said no. 55% of Democrats said no. So majorities of both parties, right? Alapundit found this over at Hot Air. He found this Rasmussen poll just from a couple days ago. Listen to this question. Should illegal immigrants be allowed to vote if they can prove that they live in this country and pay taxes? Republicans, 77% said no. Democrats, only 37% said no. Democrats, 54% said yes. So a majority of Democrats said illegal immigrants should be allowed to vote if they can prove that they live in this country and pay taxes. Wow. Now, independents, 66% said no. Isn't that amazing? And that wasn't just local elections. That was elections. If you think they should, I would love for you to call me and explain why. Somebody who not only is not a citizen, but is in this country illegally, should be able to vote on the laws of our country? And who should make them? Wow. We're approaching crazy train town right now. Of course, that's a poll compared to what you would really do and when it comes to somebody running on that, look what's happened with the Democrats running on Abolish ICE. 844-DIG-CHAD gets you on board the program. 844-DIG-CHAD. Some cops got in trouble. Cops got in trouble for a coin flip. I'll explain what happened in just a second, and the professor that's demanding something really interesting happen to editors. I'll get you that one, too, in just a second. My name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad Benson. This is the Chad Benson Show.
Take a fake news break. Check out the really important news of the day at our website, ChadBensonShow.com. Once there, click on Chad's free podcast and get real. The Chad Benson Show, where truth and the American way live. Print free.
My name's Greg Knapp, in for Chad Benson, 844-DIG-CHAD. I'm going to update you on what's going on with CBS CEO Leslie Moonves in just a second, but I told you about these police officers in trouble for a coin toss. This has been out there, but now we've got the conclusion to this craziness. It was in Georgia, and NBC News is reporting officers Courtney Brown and Christy Wilson responded to a reckless driving call in Roswell, Georgia, April the 7th. Okay? Now, the driver pulled over, this woman named Sarah Webb, apologizes for driving too fast. She said, I'm late for work. Now, the two officers noted that they didn't have a radar gun. They didn't have any tickets with them. And so they decided to use a coin toss app to see what they were going to do with the driver they pulled over. If the app came up heads, they'd arrest her. If it came up tails, they'd let her go. Well, it came up tails, and they arrested her anyway. They arrested her on charges of speeding, reckless driving, driving too fast for conditions. All of those charges were later dropped. And now the two officers have been fired. The chief, Rusty Grant, said that they failed to perform at an acceptable level in engaging in conduct which adversely affects the efficiency of the department and has a tendency to destroy public respect. You think so? Flipping a coin to see, at least virtually, flipping a coin to see if you arrest somebody? Here's the kicker. This is the real reason I bring this story up, beyond the fact that this was stupid of the police officers. You know how they got caught? Because they did this privately. They didn't do it publicly. You know how they got caught? Their own body cameras. Okay, so wait a second. So they knew they were wearing body cameras that were video and audio recording everything they did. Yeah. And they still did that. Yeah. All right. Yeah, you can't fix stupid. Absolutely, they got to go. So they're fired. Yikes. Here's an update on what we talked about last hour with the CEO of CBS, Leslie Moonves. Because the first thing that we heard was he's going to be accused of unwanted touching and kissing. We're like, well, what does that mean? I mean, are we talking about pinning him down? Because that's obviously really bad. Or are we talking about they were on a date and he thought they wanted to be kissed and he went in for a kiss and they said no and then he stopped? Because those are two very different things. Let's see. Well, now the AP is reporting and Variety is reporting that this article is going to say that 6 women are now alleging that they were sexually harassed by Leslie Moonves going back to 1980s to the late 2000s. Now, you say, Greg, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Well, part of that is that it was really difficult for women to come forward back then, and it's a lot easier now. And as more and more women are coming forward, people are feeling like it's okay to come forward and talk about it. But here's where it gets really bad. They're saying that he forcibly touched or forcibly kissed them during business meetings. And 2 of them said that he physically intimidated them or threatened to derail their careers. Now, Moonves is saying, well, there were times decades ago, and I may have made some women uncomfortable by making advances. That's your apology? But he says, those were mistakes, and I regret them immensely. But he said he never misused his position to harm or hinder anyone's career. Well, the New Yorker article is also going to say that a culture of misconduct extended from Moonves to other parts of the corporation, including CBS News, and that men in that division who were accused of sexual misconduct were promoted even as the company paid settlements to the women with complaints. Wow. And these are the organizations, CBS News, Harvey Weinstein Company out in Hollywood. These are all the people that are trying to say, we're so morally superior to... Really? Really, you are? Yeah, and CBS, oh, look at that horrible Donald Trump. And yeah, really? You guys are so morally superior, really, that you would promote people that you are paying settlements for sexual harassment. Well, you go over to the Variety article, and one of the women is going on the record here, and Ileana Douglas, an actress, she says that Moonves had her fired from a comedy pilot because she rebuffed his forceful sexual advances. The report has finally been published by Ronan Farrow in the New Yorker, okay? I haven't got the whole thing yet here. I'm just getting the headlines. So her allegation stems from her work in 1996 on the pilot for Queens. She described the meeting with Moonves. She said he held her down on a couch and kissed her without her consent. Quote, at that point, you're a trapped animal. Your life is flashing before your eyes. Wow. Unfortunately, there are way too many men who are powerful and rich, who use that power and wealth for sexual misconduct. And they think because they can, they will. And I'm glad that more and more women are feeling like they can come forward, call these guys out, and stop it. Thanks for letting me be with you today. My name's Greg Knapp, in for Chad Benson. This is The Chad Benson Show.
This is The Chad Benson Show.